4. And high unemployment is a reality that affects how much tax the South African Revenue Services can actually collect. The small tax base has to provide for tens of millions of people, and SARS is looking for new sources of revenue to meet the nation's demands. But in the current political and socio-economic climate, many South Africans are looking to move abroad, and that means they'll take their taxes with them. In light of this, the Citizen's been reflecting on a new tax for South Africans living and working abroad, so they'd essentially have to pay tax in the country where they're working and pay another tax here at home. Let's get the details of this and find out what the possible responses to it will be. Senior tax attorney at Tax Consulting South Africa, Jean du Toit, joins us now. Jean, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Please just explain how this tax would work.
Okay, so currently Section 10102, or the expat exemption, provides that your foreign-sourced employment income is exempt if you were outside South Africa for more than 183 days during a 12-month period, of which more than 60 days were continuous. So under the current exemption, it is entirely possible that your foreign earnings is entirely exempt. From 1 March 2020, the exemption is capped at 1 million rand, and you will be taxed in South Africa on your foreign earnings for every rand in excess of that threshold.
So just explain that to me in layman's terms. Does it mean that if you are earning more than 1 million rand in the country in which you are working, that you will definitely be taxed this way?
Yes, from that first rand beyond 1 million rand, you may be taxed in your host country as well as in South Africa.
Who will most likely be affected by this, John?
Well, 1 million rand sounds like a lot of money at the moment, but the reality is for a lot of these taxpayers, their packages are structured in a way that they earn certain benefits, which would be included in their taxable income. And a lot of these expatriates are paid in foreign currencies such as dollars, and in rand terms, their packages are quite high. So I think a lot of expatriates, or more than was anticipated, might be affected by this.
What do you think the consequences are going to be?
Well, I think for a lot of South Africans, they would, especially for those who contemplated leaving for many other reasons, this might be the last straw, and they might decide to leave for South Africa. For others, the additional tax liability would simply be too much, and it's an easy decision for them to decide to cease their tax residency and leave South Africa permanently.
But wouldn't that perhaps have the opposite effect, where the threat of this tax prevents them from leaving home, because it would naturally affect any income over 1 million rand earned overseas?
Yes, but if they formalize their tax residency, they are no longer taxable on their worldwide income, meaning that if they don't earn any income or perform any services inside South Africa, they are no longer taxable by SARS on their foreign earnings.
All right. So in other words, they would move all their work opportunities overseas and make sure that no work was done domestically at all.
Correct.
Right. Is there a chance that SARS will reconsider this? Is it up for public comment or debate?
Well, as far as I know, the amendment was discussed, and there was a lot of back and forth between stakeholders, and there was a Treasury workshop back in March earlier this year, and Treasury confirmed that the amendment is going ahead. From a policy perspective, there will be no changes, and the only thing that would go this way or the other is more from an administrative perspective.
How has SARS responded to the possibility that a very skilled workforce that already contributes quite a lot to our very small tax base could leave the country and take their skills with them entirely overseas?
Well, initially the amendment was to be repealed in its entirety, and when these comments were raised, the amendment was changed to be capped at 1 million rand, and I guess that was SARS's response to the concerns from all stakeholders.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Jean du Toit. He's a senior tax attorney at Tax Consulting South Africa, talking about a new concession that is coming in a new resolution, rather, that is coming into play in March next year. It looks like SARS is not considering rethinking this one. So if you earn over 1 million rand abroad and you're still doing some work in the country, that will simply make you liable for a kind of double taxation. Now, Kenil actually sent me some interesting research on this a little bit earlier. There are only only 2 countries other than South Africa, once it starts doing this in the world, that are already doing it. It's Eritrea that is demanding a 2% tax from their citizens living abroad, and due to their lack of resources and reach, they're not able to police it very well. But the United States is the other country that is implemented this kind of tax, and its citizens could be paying anything up to 40% tax on their income abroad. So you can imagine what a staggering amount of money that must be that has got to be paid back to the U.S. government. And, they enforce it extremely strictly. They have the resources to do so, and their residents often find themselves in that position. I'd like to know from you what you think about that. 011-883-0702. Send me an SMS or a WhatsApp or a voice note or even a tweet to tell me how you feel about that. Do you belong to that group of people who is considering leaving the country to work abroad? Would you consider moving all your assets overseas, or not all your assets per se, but all your work overseas, so that your entire income comes from the country where you are moving to, and you no longer pay tax in South Africa? What happens if you fall into that over R1 million tax bracket? What are you prepared to do to make sure that you don't pay that tax? Or do you feel, as a loyal South African, that you're happy to pay that tax because our government needs it in order to feed a fiscus that has lots of demands? 011-883-0702.